Hi, my name is Ferenc. This is my video essay for the ReConnect Hungarian Birthright program. I'm going to be covering a couple topics today, basically my Hungarian background, as well as my experience in being Hungarian in North America, any sort of Hungarian Diaspora community activities I am a part of, as well as my plan on how I want to give back to the Hungarian American community before and after I do this trip, if I am selected to go, which I'm looking forward to that. Fun fact, I'm actually also applying for the Hungarian Diaspora Scholarship, which I've already put the application in for the end of July. That is an opportunity where I would be able to get a master's program through the Hungarian college education system. Going in there for an MBA, so fingers crossed on both ends. Let's get into it. So again, my name is Ferenc. That has been the number one tip-off for other Hungarian people to know about my Hungarian origin. My first name, Ferenc, is extremely common in Hungary, as well as it's a name that just comes to mind, I think, especially since Liszt Ferenc, the Hungarian composer, and quite a bit of Hungarian monarchy has also had the name Ferenc. So it's a common name, though there's a lot of meaning behind it, especially to me, being that I am a junior, and my father, who is my Hungarian relation, was born in Egerfarmos, that is in the Jeves region of Hungary. It's a more of a farming region. This was in the late 1950s, and he grew up there in Hungary up until the point he was about 35, and then came to the United States. My experience of being Hungarian in North America has been obviously great. However, I will say that it's rare. I live in New Jersey and have spent some time in New York. And in New Jersey, in my experience, especially since I grew up most of my life in Monmouth County, it was very rare that I ran into another Hungarian person. However, I remember the first time I had a real Hungarian connection on my own, unassisted from, my dad introducing me as, this is my son, I'm Hungarian, therefore he's also Hungarian. 50% Hungarian. In high school, I actually knew a guy, Zoltán Gare. And Ferenc and Zoltán are two very common Hungarian names. So he reached out to me once he found out, oh, your name is Ferenc, you must be Hungarian. I'm like, well, my dad was born there, but there's a lot of Hungarian mannerisms in me and in my family. So yes, and we got along together very well, and not particularly doing a lot of Hungarian things together, but it was a good influence to be around, especially since we had that part of our ancestry in common. Though I will say it took quite a bit of time for me to start reaching out to Hungarian diasporas communities around the state particularly, and now that I'm more closer to New York, I have been keeping up with the pages in terms of ReConnect Hungary, as well as I've been visiting the Hungarian consulate too, just to kind of figure out some information about some other things that are going on in my life as well. So that's been great. Though, I definitely would like to plug in more to the Hungarian diaspora, especially just coming out of the COVID pandemic. I definitely am looking to tap into more of that community, especially now since, I think we've, not only myself, but a lot of people have had the chance to reflect upon what they want in their life, the kind of people that they want in their life. And the pandemic gladly has cleared my plate of a lot of associations that weren't really serving me and weren't in my best interest. So I think that now that my slate is open, that connecting to Hungarian diaspora, and not to mention doing a trip like this, and on top of that, hopefully the master's degree in Hungary is just going to completely just change my world and really plug into this Hungarian culture that has always been present in my life, especially through my dad, since he speaks perfect Hungarian, writes perfect Hungarian. We've traveled to Hungary with him, and him being a native, we got a totally different experience had we gone as non-guided by by him or another Hungarian native. So it was a really awesome experience each time we went. My grandmother actually lives in a retirement center near Budapest, so that brings us out there since she's in her 80s, late 80s. So we're trying to see her as much as possible, as you can imagine. Moving on, we are looking at my current involvement in Hungarian Diaspora community. I will say that I haven't plugged into the organizations as much as I would have liked to. However, I am aware that there are events going on. I actually have watched a couple of the Hungarian Diaspora community speaker events on YouTube. Particularly the most recent one was a book by a gentleman. It was titled The Jewish People of Hungary. And it was a speaker meeting where the speaker discussed the book, and at the end there was questions directed to him about the Jewish community in Hungary. And coincidentally, for this ReConnect Hungary program, there was a movie called The Son of Saul, and that was based on a Hungarian Jewish individual who was working in the concentration camps. It was a very touching and emotional movie, and part of my application is to write an essay about it, which I did, and I'm glad I watched it. In fact, I watched it twice, one with the English subtitles and one without the English subtitles. So I got a very good experience both times, and acting was fantastic because I pretty much knew exactly what was going on. The first time I watched the movie without the English subtitles, and the subtitles the second time around kind of just filled in any extra cracks. But it was a great movie. I'm glad to have watched it. But not to mention, originally why I brought this point up was that I understand that Hungarian diaspora communities have a lot going on, and I want to be more plugged into that. And this pandemic has really opened my eyes to that, where, hey, you only live once, and you can only have a certain number of associations that you can really, really plug into. And I want a very big chunk of that to be my Hungarian lineage. And personally, my mom is from Colombia, my dad is from Hungary. So I have a very strong Latin influence as well as his Hungarian influence. But I honestly must say that I absolutely plug in more to the Hungarian side of my culture, whether it's anything to do with land and nature. I do a lot of hunting, a lot of fishing, which I know Hungary has for years been a top destination for those things. Personally, I like Hungarian food and the way that the food is plated. I know a lot. There's been Hungary has actually produced a lot of top chefs and won a lot of culinary competitions in the past. Not to mention that I know that Hungary has placed number one in the world in so many different things in the past and currently even now. The number one physicist, one of the number one physicists, is actually is a Hungarian guy, coincidentally also named Ferenc. So moving on, I really am excited about this program, and it would be like something I've never done before. I have spent time in Hungary, but not to the level of where, hey, I'm going there to learn, really observe information, be a part of a group, be a part of a discussion, be a part of an experience of tapping into something that is in our blood, but may not be fully immersed in our mind and our thoughts. And, how can I possibly know myself without really knowing a lot more about what my family, particularly my dad, has experienced being a Hungarian. But how I plan to give back to the Hungarian community and promote this program upon my return is particularly with videos, blogs, as well as participating in the events, not to mention being a figure, ideally a role model to the younger generation coming in, considering this trip, I understand that it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough to put time aside with a lot of other things that going on, especially at that, at the age that this program is open to, from 18 to 28. At that age, there's a lot of stuff going on. We want to hang out. Most people want to hang out with their friends, or do their activities and whatnot. And to take the time to write, it takes amount of time, and it maybe not be everyone's strong suit, but I genuinely believe that I have the desire, not to mention the experience and motivation to take an experience, bundle it into a super package, and share it with other people. And listen, guys, this is something that even a six-figure income wouldn't be able to replace the kind of experience that this program, I think, is available to option. And right now, myself coming as a professional, I'm in a transition phase where, hey, I can do something like this program, or or anything of the like, not to mention the Hungarian MBA that I'm pursuing. And it really, I believe, that would be, to experience this program would be something just that money could not buy. I mean, sure, everything you can ballpark with price, but to be doing it with a group, to be doing this, having put in extra effort already on the back end to do the application and accumulate the materials, the letters of recommendations, it has been a privilege. And I want to share this privilege with other people and motivate them to do the same thing. And funny enough, if I wasn't pursuing the MBA program, I wouldn't have decided to plug into the Hungarian Diaspora the way that I have been, as well as communicating with its directors and head members. And it really is fantastic, and has really sparked something special in my heart. And I really want to move forward with that. So, in a nutshell, my name is Ferenc. My father was born in Hungary. His name is also Ferenc. And so I have been handed down this beautiful lineage of not only in my blood, but on paper, in my name, where anybody who meets me, hey, that's an interesting name you got there. What is the significance, origin? And I tell them it's Hungarian. And I keep that name alive by no nicknames, not Frank, not whatever, Francis. It's Ferenc. And I always introduce myself like that because I'm proud of my Hungarian lineage. And I'm proud of being able to qualify for this trip, and proud of having the desire to go ahead and move forward with this. And it really is just something like I know God has put this opportunity in front of me for a reason. So, members of the decision committee, I really hope my genuine discussion with you today has been heard and considered, and I can only imagine how fantastic this trip would be, not only for myself, but for other people. And I'm someone who loves to be in a group and to have responsibilities within that group. I'm coming into the program, I understand that the age range is between 18 and 28. I'm 27 today. So knowing that I would be probably one of the more senior attendees, I'm open to being as much of a help as I possibly can, and not running around, but being as much of a role model to the other people in the group, as well as coming in at this age. I have an understanding and an appreciation for the meaning of history, as well as an ability to decipher how that plays into my own life, and maybe my own insight will be able to be adopted among the other people in the group, because I'm sure we're going to all be talking about how fantastic this experience is, what we've learned, what we're learning, what we think about each moment of the trip. And it really just would be something that I not only want for myself, but I want the experience not only hand down to my own generations, but people outside of my family, people who are considering doing this trip in the future, people who are Hungarian but haven't plugged into this diaspora community. like we have. Particularly, I'm beginning to. I'll be totally honest, but it really is an absolute blessing. And I know this video is running long, but again, thank you guys so much for your consideration. I'm ready to move forward, and I hope, given our conversation, we can do that too. Again, my name is Ferenc. I am a proud Hungarian American, and I just cannot wait to hear back and hopefully move forward with this trip, and also move forward with the other things I have going on regarding my Hungarian roots. So thank you guys so much for your time, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.